Hello, hello. Welcome to chapter 14. This is a short chapter, but we're going to be looking at things to keep in mind for success in a teacher education program. So especially if you plan on continuing on this path of education after taking this course, some things you're going to want to think about and keep in mind. So first of all, some keys to success. One of it really has to do with your mindset, to see every course, every assignment as an opportunity for learning, as an opportunity to add to your knowledge base to help you to become a more successful teacher. So one of the ways you want to do that is take advantage of every field experience you have. When most teacher education graduates are surveyed and they're asked what was the most beneficial thing you did, most of them refer to their student teaching. That is your last year when you're spending a more dedicated period of time in a classroom. And then they say their field placements prior to that are what helped them be successful in that student teaching environment. At your field placement site, you're going to have a variety of experiences. Whether you're watching a teacher deliver a lesson, whether you're on the playground observing recess, or helping your teacher grade some assessments. Those are all opportunities to learn and use them to your benefit. Sometimes you'll be learning about teaching. Sometimes you'll be learning about the way a school runs. Sometimes you'll be learning about student behavior, but it's all beneficial. What are some other things to keep in mind? Have some sort of a general model of what you believe effective instruction is, and you need to use that throughout your time in teacher ed. Now, you also want to be flexible with it and change it as you learn more, but through this course, you've already learned a great deal about ways of describing student development and learning and different models for teaching. So start to develop in your head now what your philosophy of teaching is. Do you believe that it's more about interaction and discussion? Do you believe it's more about hands-on experiences? Do you believe it's more about connection, about shifting responsibility to the learner? What are your thoughts about education? Build on that during your time, but also keep that in mind for whenever you have to teach a lesson or whenever you're observing a teacher. And then finally, use that time to collect samples. You're going to see lots of good ideas, whether it is things that you see teachers do in your OU classes or in your field placements, whether it is your own student work. Have a way of collecting and organizing these into some sort of a file or a portfolio because they're things that might be useful in the future. You'll also learn your senior year, you'll be working on an assessment called the EDTE that also requires a collection of samples of your work. So hold on to your own work especially. All right, something else you want to think about is, what are your concerns? We all have concerns, but when it comes to the idea of becoming a teacher, what are some actual concerns that you have? Because unless you know what they are, you're not going to know how to address them. So we're going to need to think about what are they and how can they be categorized. So for right now, just take a moment in your notes, in your guided notes, maybe just reflect upon one area of concern. Something that if you're thinking about going into the field of teaching, what is something that would be worrisome to you? If you need to pause, that's fine. But once you have something written down, see if you can't categorize it. What are some major areas of teacher concerns? The first category they actually call unrelated, meaning it's not specifically about teaching. It could be about any job. It might be about whether or not you're going to make enough money. It might be about the hours of the position. It might even be unrelated, having to do with problems with family or roommates. Maybe it's not the career that your parents would choose for you, or maybe you just have other concerns on your mind right now. So your concern might be something unrelated. Your concern might be in the category of self-concerns, meaning it's a concern about you, that you're worried about whether or not you're going to have the knowledge that you need, or whether or not you're going to have the ability that you need to be a good teacher. For instance, do you know enough about your content area? How comfortable do you feel with teaching a lesson? It's one thing to know something, it's another thing to be able to teach that thing. And also, how comfortable do you feel standing up in front of a class and talking? The idea of some of us have concerns when it comes to giving presentations and public speaking. Another area where you might have a concern is what we call a task concern, where it's more about the idea of being able to get everything done. Okay, so whether it's about time management, whether it's about organizing things, doing your planning and your grading for instruction, teachers have a lot to do. I mean, consider this. Every time you give a presentation in class, let's say it's a 20-minute presentation, how much time does it take to prepare for that? Now imagine you're teaching 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. There's a lot to do. So task concerns is about the idea of the work and whether or not you're going to be able to handle the work and the organization of it. And our last category could be impact. Whether or not we're going to have the correct impact on our students, and whether or not we're going to be able to really direct and improve student learning, and whether or not we're truly making a difference as a teacher. So again, your concerns should probably fit into one of those categories. Once you've analyzed your concerns, you're really in a better position to figure out what you need to do. So then you need to ask yourself, so what needs to be done to address this concern and to improve my own self-development or professional development? Do you need to focus on things like time management and organization? If you're worried about public speaking, maybe you need some more public speaking experience. Maybe you want to join a group like Toastmasters, so try to address those concerns now. All right, so what else do we want to think about? Well, what are the requirements to becoming a teacher? So what is it you have to do aside from your courses here at college? So that's actually the first one. You need to complete a teacher education program. This includes having a major and some sort of field of advanced study in the subject you plan to teach. So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. So I went online, I looked into the Ohio regulations regarding teaching, and I wanted to go over some of the main teaching areas which would relate to your college major. So teacher licenses can be in any of these areas. Early childhood or primary. These two are similar. Right now, we offer the early childhood license, which is pre-K through grade 3. We are in the process of transferring that over to what's going to now be called a primary license area, which is going to be pre-K through grade 5. It won't start for probably another year or so, but it is something that, OU is in the process of making that shift. What else? You can also be licensed in middle childhood. Now for middle childhood, that would be grades 4 through 9, and you have to choose 2 areas of specialization. And if you can see my cursor, here are the lists of what those areas of concentration can be. Reading and language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. Now here it does list the number of hours you need for reading, and there are a specific number of hours for each of these degrees as well. I just didn't list all of them, but you need to find 2 of those specialty areas. Then you could also get your degree in adolescence to young adult. So this is grades 7 through 12, so this is high school, and you would choose one of the areas listed below. And I won't read all of them, but you can see there's a variety of areas that you can choose. Additionally, and very similar to AYA is, let me move to this one first, the multi-age license. So for the multi-age license, it's also a variety of subjects, but now it's pre-K to 12, not just high school, pre-K to 12. And you can see it includes some areas that were not on the AYA list, like computer science, dance, health, physical education, visual arts. We also offer family and computer and consumer sciences, pardon me for getting the wording of that mixed up. But so there are other degree areas as well, but this is also for the entire grade span. And then we have intervention specialist. Now you can see Ohio does offer a variety from gifted, mild to moderate, moderate to intensive, visually impaired, and hearing impaired. So these are all of the areas that Ohio as a state will license you in. And now, if you go online and look, there are also more areas than this. There are some other specialty areas, but I included the main categories. I also wanted to show you what do we offer here at Ohio University. So if you plan on getting a Bachelor of Science in Education from Ohio University's College of Ed, here are your choices. You can see that for early childhood, we already have it listed as going up through grade 5, because as I said, we're in the process of doing that right now. Middle childhood, AYA is our abbreviation for adolescent to young adult. Special education, which is also called intervention specialists, and Spanish education. Now, those aren't the only ways you can get your degree. We do offer an Associate of Applied Science, but I'd like to point out it does not lead to a teaching license. You would still need to either continue further if you want a teaching license. And then there are also teaching degrees in other departments. Art Ed and Music Ed, they do the majority of their own coursework in their departments. Family Consumer Sciences Education and Health and PE are split. They do some in their own departments, and they also do some through our courses here at Patton College of Education. All right, let's get back on track to some more general information. So what are some of the keys to getting hired? So once you get done, what are some of the things you want to keep in mind through your teacher education program to help get you hired? First of all, what are those requirements for getting your license? You need to complete your teacher education program. We just went over that. Then you also need a criminal background check. You don't just need that to get your job. You're going to be getting that while you're in your College of Education program. In fact, the first time you'll be getting it most likely will be for the EDTE 2000 block your sophomore year. So you can go to the Ohio State Board of Education website, get lots of information about getting background checks. For our purposes, you can actually do it with OUPD. That's usually a fairly quick and simple way of doing it. You'll have to have a current background check on file throughout your time here at OU for your field placements. Any volunteer working in a pre-K through 12 school must have this. What else do you need? You need to pass whatever state required exams there are. Well, that's actually pretty confusing. So I thought, let me present you with some information on what do I mean by state required exams. So for Ohio, look down below. If you plan on getting one of these early childhood degrees, you can see that there are two areas of exams you're going to need. First, you're going to need the pedagogy assessment. Pedagogy is looking at your knowledge of teaching theories, teaching strategies, classroom management, and so on. And then your content assessment. Do you know enough about math and science and reading? Because again, if you're going to be teaching early childhood, you're covering all the subjects. Well, what about some other areas? So here's middle childhood. Remember, for middle childhood, you have to specialize in two of these areas. So then you would need to take all of these assessments. So you would only take the pedagogy one time, again, your knowledge of teaching, and then you would take these specialized ones depending upon your areas. Adolescent to young adult, you would only be specializing in one of these areas, and again, you have a test on pedagogy, your knowledge of instruction, and then ones on your content area. So a bit more information, some keys to being hired. When it comes to getting your first teaching position, something you want to think about are teacher shortages. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is, it's good to choose an area where you know there's going to be a high need. So you might want to do a little bit of research on what specialty areas are there typically shortages, meaning places where principals are in need of teachers. So this chart came from our book. So you can see here, according to our textbook, the areas of the highest need, where the highest shortages are, include special education, math, computer science, science, and foreign languages. And you can see on the opposite end, those that have less of a need would include like social studies and pre-K. Now, let me go back for a second. When I'm talking about teacher shortages, let's say what you really want to teach those social sciences. I got to tell you, that's a hard area because that is not typically an area where there's a high need because there aren't a lot of shortages there. So you're going to need to find another way to make yourself stand out. Find something else that schools need in addition to the fact that you want to teach social sciences. What do schools need? They need coaches. They really need coaches. So maybe if you're into athletics, work on that. They need teachers who can speak Spanish. So perhaps pick up Spanish as a minor, and that will help bring your resume to the top of the stack. They also typically need people who can do other things on the side, like perhaps theater or music, or perhaps that you have knowledge about special education. All right, so where to look? Where to look for jobs? Well, public schools are open to anyone who wants to apply for them. They have their postings on typically the school website, as well as the Board of Education for whatever their district is. Let's say you want a bit more of a broad job search. Well, you could look at Education Week. Education Week is a great resource online. They provide listings of a variety of jobs, especially for schools that are trying to reach a little bit further, looking for applicants. So all of this has to do mainly with public schools. I'd like to point out that there are also private and charter schools out there. You may or may not know that the Athens area is in the process of getting a charter school. It is going to be a classical school, which is going to be rare for this area, and it's going to have a high draw, I would assume. They'll be looking for teachers as well. So also be on the lookout if it's an area of interest for you, private and charter schools. They would be posting their job openings most likely on their individual websites. And then your resume. Well, resume is something, you don't really need it until you're done with your time here in college, but you want to be working on it along the way. You want to be adding to it. For instance, it's a good idea to keep track of all the schools where you have field placements and who your mentor teachers are. It's a good idea to keep track of all your student groups and organizations, any volunteer work, any workshops you attend. So whether you want to start working on a resume now and writing that stuff down, or just keep all that stuff in that portfolio we talked about of samples, have some artifacts that you're holding on to help you when it comes time for that resume. OU does a good job of providing help with resume services. Here's a cool site I found on our college website with information about writing resumes. We also have career services centers where you can make appointments to have them help you one-on-one, work with your resume. They'll do mock interviewing and all sorts of things. All right, some other ways to have a successful experience as a teacher education major. One thing you're going to want to do is learn about other programs in your College of Ed, student groups, different organizations, different pathways for getting your degree. I just wanted to highlight a couple. I'm not going to go into student groups, but here are a few to think about. The CARE program. The CARE program is for middle childhood, AYA, and multi-age majors. And it is a small cohort of students that gets a ton of field experiences. They go to Federal Hawking schools, and they spend a lot of time in schools. When those students graduate, they are so prepared to get out there and get working. So that partnership school experience is great for them. Then we have the HOPE program. The HOPE program is one of our newer programs, and its main focus is to help to incorporate culturally relevant practices into the teaching model. And it is also related to some courses that we teach on hip-hop based education. And then something that not everyone is aware of are the opportunities we have for overseas student teaching, one of which is the COST program. So the COST program places you in a local English-speaking classroom in another country. We have worked with a variety of countries. You can see they're all listed here. The advisor for this program is Dr. Franz Dobbin, and he does a wonderful job pairing students with host families and making sure that they get an excellent experience. We also have some courses that take our students to Belize that you might want to look into. All right, career paths or possibilities for teachers. There's not just one path for you when you finish with your bachelor's degree in education. You might consider to go on to graduate school to get your master's or your PhD. That would also help you get a teaching job more easily and probably at higher pay. You might even consider teaching in a college of education yourself, although often those jobs also would like you to have some experience in a K through 12 classroom as well. At any time when you're out there teaching, you can always come back and work on a graduate program. Another role can be school administrator. You might find that you want to make change at a level larger than the classroom, that you want to make change at the school. Principal, vice principal, there are a lot of positions out there that would provide you with that leadership opportunity. They have their own licensure requirements, so you would want to look into that. And you might want to consider some leadership courses, and that would also require graduate school. And then there are office staff roles. Maybe you find that you're really interested in the role of technology in the classroom, or focusing on literacy, or perhaps working in a counselor position at your school. So there are other ways that you can work in school systems as well. And we're going to end with places to find joy in teaching. Well, goodness, this one is kind of endless, but it's all about your impact on your students and on their families, and on the idea of helping people. I like to point out that I have friends that do all kinds of jobs. Some that you might consider high power jobs, cardiac surgeon, hospital administrators, lawyers, all sorts of things, marketing and so on. None of them love their jobs the same way as my friends do who are teachers. There's just something about it. You will always find meaning in what you do. It is by no means easy. It is by no means a quick way to get rich, but it is a way to enrich your soul and to make a difference in the lives of others. So that is it. This is by no means all inclusive. There are so many things we didn't go into when it comes to the importance of meeting with your advisor and scheduling and studying and things like that. But these are just some basic tips, and I hope you found it useful. So thank you. And in case you all have never seen my office here in McCracken, this is my office. Yay. I'm here on a quiet little Saturday. I think I'm the only person in the building. So have a great day, and thank you.